They laughed at Mara Bell because she stood behind the curtain, with pins between her fingers and thread on her dress. But by midnight, every powerful person in the theater would be staring at her like she held their lives in her hands. The insult came first. It always did. "Move, wardrobe," Celine Voss snapped, lifting one silver heel so Mara could kneel and fix the hem of her gown. "And try not to breathe so hard. This dress is worth more than your apartment." The dressing room went quiet for half a second. Then someone laughed. Not loudly enough to be called cruel, just loudly enough for Mara to hear. She kept her head bowed and adjusted the hem with steady hands. Her fingers were short, careful, and quick, the hands of a woman who had spent 12 years making other people look unforgettable while being treated like furniture herself. "I only need 1 minute," Mara said. Celine looked down at her through the mirror, all red lips, sharp cheekbones, and practiced boredom. She was the lead actress of the charity performance, a woman worshipped by cameras and donors. Tonight, she was dressed as a tragic queen, in a silver gown that Mara had rebuilt twice because Celine kept demanding a smaller waist and a longer train. "A minute?" Celine said. "That is generous. I assumed women like you were used to taking up more space than time." Another laugh moved through the room. Mara felt it land in her chest. She did not look up. She had learned years ago that people became crueler when they saw the wound appear. So she swallowed the sting, tightened the hidden stitch, and clipped the thread clean. "There," she said. "You can walk without catching the train now." Celine turned once in the mirror, pleased with herself, and not with Mara. The other stylists rushed forward with powder, perfume, jewelry, and praise. Mara rose from the floor, gathering her sewing kit against her soft stomach. The black tunic she wore had been chosen because it disappeared backstage, but on her full figure, nothing ever truly disappeared. People saw her when they wanted to laugh. They ignored her when she spoke. That was the pattern of her life. The Vesper Theater glittered beyond the dressing rooms, like a palace built for secrets. Marble stairs swept into a lobby, filled with champagne and diamonds. Velvet curtains hung heavy as blood. Security men in black suits lined the private corridors, their earpieces coiled like quiet snakes. The charity event was officially for children's hospitals. Unofficially, everyone backstage knew why the donors were so nervous. Dante Moretti owned the night. He owned the theater, the hotel across the street, 3 shipping companies, and enough fear in New York to make arrogant men lower their eyes when his name entered a room. He had sponsored the performance in honor of his late wife, whose portrait hung in the lobby beneath white roses. His daughter, Lucia, was supposed to appear on stage after the final curtain to announce a foundation grant. That was what the program said. Mara had dressed Lucia earlier in a navy velvet gown with pearl buttons. The girl was 21, not a child, but she had looked younger when she asked Mara if the sleeves made her arms look awkward. "They make you look elegant," Mara had told her. Lucia had smiled like nobody had said something simple and kind to her in a very long time. That smile was why Mara noticed the first wrong thing. Lucia had been assigned a private security escort with a charcoal uniform jacket, double-stitched cuffs, and a gold theater access badge pinned on the left side. Mara knew, because she had altered all 12 security jackets herself after the original supplier sent them too broad in the shoulders. She knew every seam, every button, every invisible repair. Clothing remembered bodies. Mara remembered clothing. So when she saw a security guard pass the dressing room corridor with a jacket stitched in the wrong direction, her hands went cold. The man moved quickly, too quickly for staff. His shoulders were square, his hair cropped close, his face calm in the blank way of someone pretending not to be seen. The badge on his chest looked right from a distance, but the jacket did not. The left cuff had a diagonal reinforcement stitch that belonged to the old uniform pattern, not the updated one. Mara stepped into the corridor. "Excuse me," she called. The man did not stop. A stagehand carrying a coil of cable nearly collided with her. "Mara, get out of the way," he muttered. "Curtain in 6. She ignored him and followed the guard as far as the prop archway. He turned toward the private dressing hall, the one that led to Lucia Moretti's waiting room. Mara's pulse kicked hard. Only 4 people were allowed in that corridor without clearance. Dante Moretti, Lucia, Matteo Rinaldi, Dante's head of security, and Mrs. Cora Ellery, the theater manager, who had spent the entire week reminding Mara that wardrobe was replaceable. Mara reached for the radio clipped to her belt. "Wardrobe to security," she said. "I need confirmation on a guard entering Private Hall B." Static answered. Then a man's voice said, "Stay in your lane, wardrobe." Mara recognized the voice. Matteo Rinaldi. Smooth, cold, irritated. She pressed the button again. "His cuff stitching is wrong." A pause. Then a low laugh came through the radio. "Are you reporting a sewing emergency?" Heat flooded Mara's face. 2 dancers passing behind her snickered. She lowered the radio. For a moment, she almost let it go. That was what she had been trained by life to do. Let insults pass. Let rooms move on without her. Let powerful people tell her that what she noticed did not matter. Then she remembered Lucia's nervous smile, the navy velvet sleeves, the way the young woman had whispered, "My father hates weakness. I wish I knew how not to look afraid." Mara turned toward Private Hall B. She was not security. She was not important. But she knew that uniform was wrong. And sometimes the smallest wrong stitch could tear open an entire lie. She had taken only 3 steps when Mrs. Cora Ellery appeared from the side corridor like a knife in pearls. "Mara," Cora said, "why are you away from wardrobe?" Cora was 60, elegant and terrifying, in the way only people who controlled payroll could be. Her gray hair was pinned at the nape. Her smile was never warm enough to thaw anything. "I saw an unauthorized guard enter Private Hall B," Mara said. "His jacket was wrong." Cora stared at her. Then she looked Mara over from her black flats to the curve of her stomach beneath the tunic. "You saw a jacket," Cora said. "I saw a uniform that was not one of ours. You are not paid to see threats. I am paid to know costumes and uniforms. You are paid to make actresses look thin and donors feel generous," Cora said softly. "Do not confuse thread with authority." Mara's throat tightened. Behind Cora, Celine emerged from the dressing room in silver, glowing and cruel. "What did wardrobe do now?" Celine asked. "She believes she has discovered espionage through embroidery," Cora said. Celine laughed, and this time the room did not hide with her. Mara stood still. Her face burned. Her hands remained steady around the sewing kit. Then the corridor changed. Not with noise. With silence. The kind of silence that did not fall naturally. The kind that was imposed. Every guard near the end of the hall straightened. Every stagehand suddenly found somewhere else to look. Even Celine's smile faded. Not from guilt, but from instinct. Dante Moretti had entered the backstage corridor. He wore a black suit without a tie, the white collar of his shirt open at the throat. He was 39, broad-shouldered, composed, and so still that movement around him looked nervous by comparison. His dark hair was brushed back, his face carved into restraint. He did not need to raise his voice. Men like him made rooms lower themselves. His eyes moved once across the corridor. Celine, Cora, the laughing stylists, then Mara. She expected his gaze to pass over her. It did not. It stopped. Not on her body first, though she had known men who did that with judgment or hunger. His gaze stopped on her hands, clenched around a sewing kit hard enough to turn her knuckles pale. Then it moved to her face. "What happened?" he asked. Nobody answered. Cora recovered first. "Mr. Moretti," she said, all silk now. "A minor staff confusion. We are handling it." Dante did not look at her. He looked at Mara. I asked what happened. Mara felt every eye turn toward her. Her body wanted to shrink. Her mind refused. "I saw a security guard enter Private Hall B," she said. "His uniform jacket had the wrong cuff stitching. It was not one of the jackets I altered for your team." Matteo Rinaldi approached from the opposite hall, jaw tight. "Boss, wardrobe is nervous," Matteo said. "Opening night pressure." Dante's expression did not change. "Did you check the hall?" Matteo paused for one beat too long. Mara heard it. Dante heard it too. "I had men posted," Matteo said. "That was not my question." The corridor went colder. Matteo's eyes flicked toward Mara, with irritation sharp enough to cut fabric. "I will check now." "No," Dante said. "You will stay here." Cora's smile trembled. "Mr. Moretti, truly, we cannot delay curtain over a seamstress's imagination." Dante finally turned his eyes to her. "She is not a seamstress's imagination," he said. "She is a person who noticed something my security chief did not." Cora's mouth closed. Mara inhaled carefully. Dante stepped closer. Not enough to crowd her, but enough that the room understood his attention had chosen a side. "What is your name?" he asked. "Mara Bell." "What did you see, Mara Bell?" The sound of her full name in his voice unsettled her more than the insult had. He said it like it deserved space. She opened her sewing kit and pulled out a small notebook. Nobody knew she kept it. In it were sketches of every altered costume, every security uniform, every last-minute repair. She flipped to a page marked with charcoal thread. "These jackets were updated after fitting," she said. "Your real guards have vertical cuff reinforcement, because the original diagonal stitching pulled when they reached for their radios. I changed all 12 myself. The man who entered Private Hall B had the old diagonal stitching. Either he did not attend fitting, or he is wearing a copied jacket made from the original vendor sample." Matteo's face hardened. Celine whispered, "She draws the guard's sleeves?" Mara looked at her for the first time. "I do my job." Dante took the notebook from Mara's hand with unexpected care. He studied the sketch, then held it out to Matteo. "Lock down Private Hall B." Matteo did not move. Dante's voice lowered. "Now." Matteo touched his earpiece and gave the order. Nothing happened for 3 seconds. Then, every light backstage flickered once. A scream came from the private hall. Mara moved before anyone told her to. Dante moved faster. He strode toward the sound, guards closing behind him. Mara followed with her heart in her throat, ignoring Cora's sharp command to stay back. The door to Lucia's waiting room was open. Inside, the vanity bulbs glared over scattered pearls and overturned flowers. Lucia stood near the mirror, pale and trembling, while a young actress named Iris Vale clutched her arm. Iris was small, freckled, and usually too shy to speak above a whisper. Tonight, her stage makeup streaked under one eye, as if she had been crying. On the floor lay a security jacket. Not torn, not dropped, placed, beside Lucia's handbag. Dante stopped in the doorway. His face went empty in a way that frightened Mara more than anger. "Lucia," he said. His daughter looked at him with wide eyes. "I did not put that there," she whispered. "Papa, I swear." Matteo stepped into the room behind them. His gaze went immediately to the jacket. "What is this?" he asked. Dante did not answer. Mara crouched before anyone could stop her. She did not touch the jacket at first. She looked at it the way she looked at costumes before a performer stepped into them, reading the body that had worn it. Wrong cuff stitching. Wrong shoulder slope. Wrong badge pin. And something else. A pale thread caught near the inside collar. Not black. Navy. The same shade as Lucia's velvet gown. Mara looked up at Lucia. "Did anyone brush against you?" Lucia hugged herself. "The guard. He said he needed to check my badge. I thought he was one of ours." Matteo's mouth tightened. That proves she interacted with him. Dante turned slowly toward him. "You are speaking about my daughter." "I am protecting you from sentiment," Matteo said. "If someone finds a fake security jacket in her room with her thread on it, they will say she helped him." The words landed too neatly, too prepared. Mara felt the second wrong stitch. She looked from Matteo to the jacket, then to Iris. Iris was staring at the vanity, not at the jacket. At the trash bin beneath the makeup table, Mara followed her gaze. A torn strip of black fabric sat half hidden under tissue paper and false lashes. Mara reached for it. Matteo stepped forward. "Do not contaminate anything." Dante lifted one hand. Matteo stopped. Mara picked up the fabric with 2 fingers. The edge was raw, sliced quickly. The stitch line along it was vertical. Real. "This came from one of your actual uniforms," she said. "Someone cut a piece from a real guard's jacket and rubbed it against Miss Moretti's gown to transfer fibers. Then they planted the fake jacket here." Lucia covered her mouth. Iris whispered, "I saw him near the dressing rooms." Everyone turned. The young actress looked like she wanted the floor to swallow her. Mara softened her voice. "Who?" "The guard," Iris said. "The fake one. He came out of the wardrobe corridor. I thought he was lost, but then Mr. Rinaldi spoke to him." Matteo's face changed. Only for a second. But Mara saw it. Dante did too. The room went dangerously still. Matteo gave a quiet laugh. "She is an actress. They invent drama for applause." Iris flinched. Mara stood, placing herself between Iris and Matteo before she thought better of it. "She is scared," Mara said. "That is different." Matteo looked down at her. "You do not know what fear looks like in this world." "No," Mara said, "but I know what a man looks like when he wants a woman to stop talking." Dante's eyes moved to her again. Something shifted in them. Not softness exactly. Recognition. For the first time that night, Mara wondered if he knew what it cost her to say that. Matteo smiled, but it did not reach his eyes. "Careful, wardrobe." Dante's voice cut through the room. "Her name is Mara." Matteo looked at him. Dante stepped closer to his security chief. "And you will use it with respect." The air tightened. Mara could hear the distant orchestra beginning its overture. The show was minutes from curtain. Hundreds of donors sat in velvet seats, unaware that backstage a trap had begun closing around Lucia Moretti. Dante turned to his daughter. "Stay with Iris." Lucia nodded, trembling. Then he looked at Mara. "What else do you see?" No one had ever asked her that in such a room. Not what she had done wrong. Not why she was in the way. "What else do you see?" Mara looked at the planted jacket again. "The badge is real," she said. Matteo's expression sharpened. Dante heard the change. How do you know? The fake jacket is copied, but the badge has tonight's private access ribbon. Those were issued at 6. A fake guard could copy a uniform, but he would need someone inside the theater to get that badge. Cora appeared in the doorway, pale now. Badges were controlled by management, she said. Dante looked at her. And security, Mara added quietly. Cora's eyes flashed toward her with hatred. Mara understood then that Cora was not simply embarrassed. She was afraid. Dante saw that too. The orchestra swelled. A stage manager shouted for places. Celine's voice rang from the hall, furious about delays. Dante looked toward the stage, then back at the jacket. "We do not stop the performance," he said. Lucia stared at him. "Papa, if we stop it now, whoever planted this disappears into panic," he said. "We let them think the curtain is still protecting them." Mara felt a chill. "And Lucia?" she asked. Dante's gaze did not leave hers. "Lucia does not go on stage until I know who wanted her framed," Matteo said. "That will ruin the program." Dante did not look at him. "Then the program will survive disappointment." Mara almost admired the coldness of that. Almost. Then she saw Lucia's face. The young woman was not relieved. She looked devastated. "This was supposed to be for my mother," Lucia whispered. Dante's control flickered. There it was. The private vulnerability beneath the dark suit and lethal silence. The night was not just charity. It was grief, dressed in gold. Mara looked at Lucia's navy gown, then at the fake jacket. A thought formed slowly. "Mr. Moretti," she said. Dante turned. "Who benefits if Lucia looks guilty tonight?" Matteo answered before Dante could. "His enemies." Mara shook her head. "No. If a rival wanted to hurt him, they would attack his reputation directly. This is different. This makes his daughter look disloyal. That hurts him inside the family." Dante's eyes became unreadable. Inside the family. The words were dangerous. Mara felt them after she said them. Matteo's face had gone completely still. Cora whispered, "This is absurd." Mara looked at her. "Then why are you sweating?" Cora's hand flew to her throat. Dante's mouth barely moved, but Mara thought she saw the ghost of approval. A crash sounded near the stage. Someone shouted. Then the theater plunged into half-darkness. Emergency lights glowed red along the corridor. The orchestra stopped. For one terrible second, the building held its breath. Then Dante's radio crackled. "Boss, we have a problem at stage left." Matteo reached for his own radio, but Dante's guard blocked his hand. Matteo stared at him, offended. Dante said, "You are done giving orders until I understand why a fake guard walked through my theater." The words hit like a locked door. Mara watched Matteo's jaw tighten. It was not guilt yet. It was calculation. Dante turned to Mara. "Can you get us through backstage without being seen?" Cora barked a laugh. "She is wardrobe, not a map." Mara looked at Dante. "Yes," she said. "Costumes move through places donors never see." He held out his arm. Not to grab her, to offer. The gesture startled her. In a hallway full of men with weapons under their jackets and women with knives in their smiles, Dante Moretti waited for a costume supervisor to choose whether to take his arm. Mara hesitated. Then she placed her hand lightly on his sleeve. His arm was steady, warm beneath the suit. "This way," she said. She led him through the wardrobe corridor, past racks of soldier coats, velvet capes, and false crowns. The theater smelled of dust, hairspray, hot lights, and panic. Behind them, two of Dante's loyal guards escorted Lucia and Iris into a secure dressing room. As they moved, Dante lowered his voice. You stood in front of that girl. Mara. Iris, he said. You stood in front of her when Matteo tried to scare her. She was already scared. Most people become useful to me by becoming crueler, Dante said. You became useful by refusing to. Mara did not know what to do with that. Compliments usually came to her like scraps or jokes. This sounded more like evidence. They reached a narrow stairwell behind the prop room. Mara paused, listening. Above them, footsteps moved too fast. The fake guard went this way, she said. Dante looked at the stairs. How do you know? The tread on his right shoe squeaked when he passed me. Same sound. Dante studied her. You remember footsteps too? I remember what people wear when they think nobody is watching. Something crossed his face. And what did you remember about me? The question was quiet. Too quiet. Mara should have looked away. She did not. Your left sleeve is half an inch shorter than your right, she said. You either favor your left arm, or your tailor is afraid to tell you that you stand unevenly when you are worried. For a moment, Dante Moretti simply stared at her. Then he gave the smallest breath of laughter, not mocking, astonished. My tailor has worked for me for 15 years and has never said that. Maybe he likes being alive, Mara said. The line slipped out before she could catch it. Dante's eyes warmed by one dangerous degree. There she is, he said. Mara felt heat rise in her cheeks, but there was no time to answer. A door slammed above. She hurried up the stairs, Dante close behind her. They emerged into the fly gallery, high above the stage, where ropes and rigging disappeared into darkness. Below, the stage crew scrambled beneath dim emergency lights. The curtain remained down. The audience murmured beyond it, restless but unaware. At the far end of the gallery, the fake guard stood near the old costume storage door. He was not alone. Cora Ellery stood with him. Mara froze behind a hanging backdrop. Dante stopped beside her. They listened. You were supposed to leave it in the girl's room and get out, Cora hissed. The fake guard held up a small envelope. Plans changed. Rinaldi wants the original too. Cora recoiled. No. I was told the girl would only be embarrassed, a scandal, not destroyed. The fake guard laughed. You thought men like Rinaldi leave loose ends. Mara's blood went cold. Dante did not move, but his face changed. Matteo. Not a question now. A shape becoming visible. Cora pressed a hand to her mouth. Lucia was never supposed to go to prison. The fake guard stepped closer. Then you should have chosen better friends. Dante stepped out of the shadow. The fake guard turned. He reached into his jacket. Dante's guard appeared from the stairwell and moved before Mara could see what happened. The fake guard was slammed against the wall, his arm twisted behind him. The motion was fast and frightening, but not bloody. The envelope fell to the floor and slid toward Mara's shoe. She picked it up. Dante did not look at the fake guard first. He looked at Cora. The theater manager seemed to age 10 years in one breath. Dante, she whispered, I can explain. I am sure you can. His voice was calm enough to be worse than shouting. Mara opened the envelope. Inside was a printed donor list, a copy of Lucia's private badge access, and a photograph of Lucia speaking with a young man near the alley entrance. Mara recognized the young man. He was a stage carpenter named Benji Holt, 19, nervous, kind, and always hungry. Mara often gave him leftover sandwiches from catering because he worked double shifts and pretended he was not struggling. The photograph made it look like Lucia was handing him something. But Mara had seen that moment earlier. Lucia had dropped a pearl button from her sleeve. Benji had picked it up and returned it. Mara's throat tightened with anger. "This is staged," she said. Dante took the photograph from her. Cora began to cry. "I owed money," she said, "not to him, to people he knows. Matteo promised it would only create doubt around Lucia, enough to delay her foundation control, enough for Dante to restructure the board." Dante's expression was stone. "My daughter's foundation." Cora looked at the floor. Mara understood before Cora said it. The charity was not just charity. Lucia was inheriting control of her mother's foundation tonight. If she appeared involved with a fake guard, a planted badge, and a backstage worker, the board could claim she was compromised. Someone else would take over. Matteo. Or someone behind him. "Where is Rinaldi?" Dante asked. His guard pressed the fake guard harder against the wall. The man smiled, despite the pain. "Probably where the applause is." Mara looked down through the rigging. The curtain had begun to rise. The performance was restarting. Celine stood center stage in silver, beneath a single spotlight, smiling like a queen who believed the world belonged to her. Behind her, dancers arranged themselves for the final scene. Mara looked at the fake guard's jacket. Then at Celine's gown, the silver train, the hem she had fixed. A thread of black fabric had caught there earlier, when Celine swept past the security corridor. Mara had noticed it, then dismissed it as backstage dust. Now she knew better. "Celine knows," Mara said. Dante turned to her. "What?" Her gown caught black uniform thread before she entered stage left. "She came from the private corridor after mocking me. She said she was in dressing, but she passed near the fake guard." Cora sobbed. Celine wanted Lucia embarrassed. She thought Dante would blame the girl and remove her from the foundation announcement. Celine thought he would ask her to host instead. Dante's eyes darkened. Celine Voss, beautiful enough to be believed by donors, and cruel enough to use it. Mara looked through the rigging again. Celine was delivering a monologue about loyalty. The irony almost hurt. Dante said, "Bring her off stage." "No," Mara said. Every man turned to her. She swallowed. Her body wanted to apologize for interrupting. She did not. "If you drag her off stage now, she becomes the victim in front of donors," Mara said. "She cries. She says your men frightened her. She says Lucia is unstable. You lose control of the story." Dante studied her. "What do you suggest?" Mara's heart pounded. The old Mara would have said nothing. She would have handed the problem back to men with power and returned to her costumes. But the old Mara had already been insulted tonight. The old Mara had already been laughed at. The old Mara had already watched a girl almost lose her future because powerful people assumed backstage women did not matter. "I need the costume rack for the final curtain," she said. Dante's gaze sharpened. And I need Lucia on stage." "No." The answer was immediate. Protective. Terrifying. Mara stepped closer before fear could stop her. "If she does not appear, they win," she said. "The story becomes that Lucia vanished during a security breach. If she appears after I expose the fake uniform, she becomes the daughter who survived a setup." Dante's jaw flexed. "She is my daughter. I know. You are asking me to use her as bait." "No," Mara said. "I am asking you to trust her with her own name." The words struck him. For the first time, Dante looked away. Mara saw the grief behind his control again. A widower trying to protect the last living piece of his wife. A dangerous man who had mistaken protection for walls. "She is afraid," he said. "So am I," Mara answered. "But fear is not proof we should disappear. Dante looked back at her. Something in his face altered. Not surrender. Respect. He touched his earpiece. Bring Lucia to stage right. Quietly. With Iris. Then, after a beat, he added, ask her. Do not order her. Mara let out a breath she had not realized she was holding. Dante looked at her. You have 5 minutes. I need 3. His mouth almost curved. Of course you do. Mara ran. She moved through backstage, like the theater had finally remembered she belonged to it. She grabbed the final curtain costume rack, tore open the emergency repair drawer, and pulled 3 jackets from the security spares. 1 real, 1 fake, 1 damaged. Benji appeared near the prop table, pale and shaking. Mara, he whispered. They said I did something. You returned a button, she said. That is all. His eyes filled. Nobody will believe me. I will. Iris arrived with Lucia moments later. Lucia's face was pale, but her spine was straight. Dante's daughter had inherited his dark eyes, but not his armor. Not yet. Mara held out the torn strip of real uniform fabric. Do you want to go out there? She asked. Lucia looked toward the stage, where Celine's voice rang like polished glass. My mother built that foundation, Lucia said. She said hospitals should not feel like punishment for being sick. Her hands trembled. Mara stepped closer. Then, you do not have to be fearless. You only have to be louder than their lie. Lucia looked at her, and something passed between them that had nothing to do with Mafia power. 2 women who had been told to shrink for other people's comfort. I will go, Lucia said. Mara nodded. Dante appeared behind them. He looked at Lucia, then at Mara. He did not touch either of them. He waited. Lucia walked to him and took his hand. I am doing this, she said. Dante's face tightened with emotion he would not show in front of others. Yes, he said quietly. You are. Then he looked at Mara. And you? Mara almost laughed. I am wardrobe, remember? His eyes held hers. No, he said. You are the reason the curtain is still worth raising. The words landed somewhere deep. Not because they were romantic, because they were accurate. For the final curtain call, Celine stood at center stage, basking in applause. The audience rose to its feet. Donors in diamonds smiled. Cameras lifted. The theater glowed with gold and velvet and lies. Then Lucia stepped onto the stage. The applause changed. Celine's smile froze. Dante emerged from stage right, not beside his daughter, but 1 step behind her. That mattered. Mara noticed. He was protecting without taking her place. Mara walked out last, carrying 3 security jackets over her arms. A murmur spread through the audience. Cora was escorted into the wing by one of Dante's loyal guards. The fake guard stood restrained near the side curtain. Matteo Rinaldi appeared at the back of the auditorium, face calm, but his eyes had gone sharp with alarm. Celine recovered quickly. Ladies and gentlemen, she said into the microphone, laughing lightly. It seems wardrobe has joined the cast. A few donors chuckled. The old wound opened. Mara felt the heat in her face, the awareness of her body under stage lights, the knowledge that hundreds of rich strangers were measuring her without permission. Then Dante stepped toward the microphone, but Mara touched his sleeve. A small touch. A request. Let me. He stopped. The theater saw it. Matteo saw it. Celine saw it. Dante Moretti, feared across New York, had been stopped by a costume supervisor's fingers on his sleeve, and he had allowed it. Mara took the microphone. Her voice shook once before it steadied. My name is Mara Bell, she said. I supervise costumes for this theater. Tonight, someone used a fake security uniform to enter a private dressing hall and plant evidence against Lucia Moretti. Gasps moved through the audience. Celine smiled too brightly. This is ridiculous. Mara held up the first jacket. This is a real Moretti security jacket. Vertical cuff reinforcement. Correct badge angle. Shoulder altered for radio reach. She held up the second. This is the fake. Diagonal reinforcement from the vendor sample. Wrong shoulder balance. Badge added after access control. Matteo began moving down the aisle. Dante's guards closed the doors. Mara's voice grew stronger. The fake guard was not here to attack Mr. Moretti, she said. He was here to make his daughter look guilty before she took control of her mother's foundation. Lucia stood still beneath the lights. Dante's face was unreadable, but his attention never left Mara. Celine laughed again, but it was thinner now. And this fantasy is based on sewing? No, Mara said. It is based on sewing, badge access, fabric transfer, witness testimony, and your gown. The theater went silent. Mara turned toward her. I fixed your hem before curtain, she said. There was no black thread caught in the train then. Later, after you passed through the private corridor, there was. The same black thread from the fake security jacket. Celine's eyes flashed. That proves nothing. Mara nodded. Alone, no. But Iris Vale saw the fake guard near the dressing rooms. Benji Holt returned a button to Lucia, and someone photographed it to make it look like an exchange. Cora Ellery has already admitted she was pressured to help delay Lucia's foundation control. Cora sobbed from the wing. Celine looked toward Matteo. Only for a second. But on stage, under lights, a second was a confession. Dante saw it. The audience saw it. Mara saw Matteo stop walking. His plan had depended on invisible people staying invisible. Mara turned the final jacket inside out. This is the real uniform fabric strip, planted with Lucia's dress fibers, she said. It was cut from a real guard's jacket. Only security leadership had access before the event. Matteo smiled from the aisle. A cruel, calm smile. You are very confident for a woman holding laundry. The insult struck the stage like a slap. Mara gripped the microphone. Dante moved one step forward. Mara lifted her hand again. He stopped again. Her voice became quiet. That made everyone listen harder. All night, people have mistaken fabric for decoration, she said. But fabric remembers. It remembers bodies. It remembers pressure. It remembers who wore it, who tore it, and who thought a woman like me would only see hems. Matteo's smile faded. Mara looked directly at him. You cut the strip from your own jacket. A wave of sound went through the audience. Matteo laughed. Absurd. Mara held up the strip. The repair thread is dark charcoal, not black. I used that thread on only one security jacket because one man tore his sleeve during rehearsal 2 nights ago. She turned toward Dante. Mr. Rinaldi's. Dante slowly looked at his security chief. For the first time, Matteo looked afraid. Dante's voice was soft. Is that true? Matteo said nothing. Mara continued. You wanted Lucia removed from foundation control because the foundation board has access to donor records. Her mother's foundation was about to uncover payments, routed through theater contracts. Cora thought it was debt. Celine thought it was vanity. But you were protecting yourself. Matteo's face hardened. You have no idea what you are talking about. I do, Mara said, because you made the same mistake everyone made tonight. She looked across the theater. You assumed wardrobe does not read programs, contracts, fittings, donor lists, access badges, and movement schedules. You assumed the woman behind the curtain was not part of the room. Lucia stepped forward then. Her voice shook, but did not break. My mother used to say, the people backstage know more about a performance than the people in the front row. Dante's eyes softened with grief. Lucia looked at Matteo. You used her name to steal from children. The words hit harder than any threat. Matteo's control cracked. You are a child, he snapped. Your father kept you wrapped in velvet, while men like me kept this family alive. Dante's face went lethal. Mara felt the air change. This was the moral line. The moment where a man like Dante Moretti could choose violence and call it justice. She stepped between his gaze and Matteo, not because she believed she could physically stop him, because she believed he might let her. Do not give him blood to hide behind, Mara said quietly. Dante's eyes cut to hers. He touched my daughter's name. Yes, Mara said, so let him lose his in front of everyone. The theater was silent enough to hear the stage lights hum. Dante breathed once. Then he nodded. It was small. It was everything. He turned to his guards. Remove Matteo Rinaldi from my security, my companies, and my family holdings. Seal his office. Send every record to my attorneys and Lucia's foundation board. Matteo lunged forward, but the guards caught him before he reached the stage. No gunshots. No blood. Just a powerful man being stripped of access while the people he had manipulated watched him become ordinary. Celine tried to slip away. Lucia saw her. No, Lucia said. The word was not loud. But it carried. Celine froze. Lucia took the microphone from Mara with trembling fingers. Celine Voss will no longer serve as ambassador for my mother's foundation, she said. Any contract connected to her representation will be reviewed. Publicly. Celine's face drained of color. You cannot do that. Lucia looked at Mara, then at her father, then back at Celine. I just did. Applause did not come immediately. First came silence. Deep, stunned, reverent. Then Iris began clapping from the wing. Benji joined. Then the stage crew. Then the audience. Not for Celine. Not for the performance. For Lucia. For the truth. And then, impossibly, for Mara. Mara stood beneath the lights, still holding a torn uniform jacket, her body warm with terror and disbelief. The same room that had laughed at her minutes before now rose around her. She did not know what to do with respect that arrived so loudly. Dante stepped beside her, not in front, beside. He lowered his voice so only she could hear. You just saved my daughter. Mara swallowed. She saved herself. Yes, he said, because you made room for her too. Her eyes stung. Dante looked at her hand, then back at her face. May I? The question nearly undid her. Not because he wanted to touch her, because he asked. Mara nodded. He took her hand carefully, as if her fingers were not ordinary things, but the instruments that had cut through his enemy's lies. He brushed his thumb once across her knuckles. Then, in front of everyone who had called her invisible, Dante Moretti kissed her hand. Not as a performance, as a vow. Mara felt the room tilt around her. Celine stared like the sight wounded her, more than losing the contract. Cora wept quietly in the wing, not forgiven, but exposed. Matteo was dragged through the aisle, his name already collapsing behind him. Dante did not look at any of them. He looked only at Mara. Later, after the audience had been escorted out, after Lucia had cried in her father's arms for the first time in years, After Iris gave her statement and Benji was cleared, Mara returned backstage to gather her sewing kit. The theater looked different after midnight. Less golden, more honest. Costumes hung on racks like abandoned skins. The stage lights cooled. The velvet curtain rested in heavy folds, no longer pretending it had not seen everything. Mara found her notebook on the makeup table. Someone had placed it there carefully. Dante stood near the doorway. "You left before I could thank you properly," he said. "I still work here," Mara replied. "Costumes do not hang themselves." "Not anymore." She looked up. His expression was serious. "I bought out the theater's management contract 10 minutes ago," he said. "Cora Ellery is finished here. The board will appoint someone who understands that the people backstage are not disposable." Mara stared at him. "That is a very expensive apology." "It is not an apology. It is a correction." She closed the notebook. "I do not want pity. I know. I do not want to be hidden in some private room because I helped you. I know that too." Dante stepped closer, slow enough that she could step away. She did not. "I want to offer you a position," he said. "Not as my ornament. Not as someone I keep safe by making her small. Lucia's foundation needs a director of production oversight. Theater contracts, charity events, public ceremonies, staff protections. Someone who sees what powerful people miss." Mara's breath caught. "You want me to watch the seams. I want you to run the room." For a long moment, she could not speak. All her life, people had treated her attention like anxiety, her body like an inconvenience, her care like weakness, her silence like permission. Dante Moretti looked at those same things and saw power. "I have conditions," she said. His mouth softened. "I expected nothing less. I keep my name, my apartment, my workroom, my choices. Yes, you do not order guards to follow me without asking." A pause, a difficult one. Then he nodded. "I ask. If I say no, I argue," he said, "but I listen." Despite herself, Mara smiled. "That sounds honest." "I am rarely gentle," Dante said, "but I can be honest with you." She studied him in the dim backstage light. The dangerous man had not disappeared. He never would. It was in the controlled way he stood, the watchfulness in his eyes, the power coiled beneath every quiet word. But he had stopped when she touched his sleeve. Twice. That mattered. "What happens to Mateo?" she asked. "Exposure, courts, contracts, testimony, everything clean enough that he cannot use violence as an excuse." Mara nodded. Dante looked at her carefully. "That was your line. It still is. I will remember." She believed him. Not because he was safe, because he was trying to be worthy of trust. Lucia appeared in the doorway behind him, wrapped in a coat over her navy gown. Iris stood beside her, holding 2 cups of tea from the catering table. "I wanted to say goodbye," Lucia said. Mara smiled. "You were brave tonight." Lucia shook her head. "I was terrified." "That counts more." Lucia crossed the room and hugged her. Mara froze for half a second, then hugged her back. Lucia was trembling. So was she. When they separated, Lucia looked at her father. "You should hire her, before someone smarter does." Dante's eyes stayed on Mara. "I am trying." Mara looked down at her sewing kit. The same kit Celine had sneered at. The same kit that had held the notebook, the thread, the tiny scissors, the proof. Then she looked at the stage. For years, she had made other people visible. Tonight, she had stepped into the light and survived it. "I will take the position," she said, "on one more condition." Dante waited. "When I speak, Your men listen. Dante did not smile. He looked toward the empty theater, then back at her. When you speak, he said, the room listens. Months later, the Vesper Theater reopened under Lucia Moretti's foundation. The first event was not a celebrity gala. It was a benefit for backstage workers, costume apprentices, lighting crews, stagehands, drivers, cleaners, and every invisible person who had ever made powerful people look flawless. Mara Bell stood center stage in a deep green dress, tailored to honor every soft line she had once tried to hide. Her hair was pinned back with 2 pearl clips Lucia had given her. Her hands were bare, except for a silver thimble on a chain around her neck. Dante stood in the front row, not backstage controlling the room, not beside her taking the attention. In the front row, watching. Celine Voss's name had vanished from the theater banners. Cora Ellery had confessed publicly to her part in the setup. Matteo Rinaldi was no longer whispered about with fear, only discussed in legal documents and closed board meetings. Iris had become the foundation's first artist ambassador. Benji had a paid apprenticeship. Lucia had taken her mother's foundation and made it warmer, sharper, and braver. And Mara had become the woman who checked every uniform, every contract, every access badge, and every room where people thought the quiet ones did not matter. Before the speech, Dante came to the edge of the stage. He did not climb up. He simply offered his hand. Mara looked at it, then at him. A year ago, she might have wondered whether taking that hand meant disappearing into his shadow. Now she knew better. Dante Moretti did not make her smaller. He made the world around her answer for trying. She took his hand. He brushed his thumb across her knuckles once. "You look nervous," he said softly. "I am." "Good," he said. "Courage should know what it is standing against." She smiled. Then she stepped to the microphone alone. The theater quieted. The same stage that had once exposed a spy now held her like it had been waiting. Mara looked out at the crowd, at the workers in the back row, at Lucia smiling through tears, at Dante watching her with dangerous tenderness and absolute respect. She thought of Celine's voice, sharp and cruel, telling her to move. She thought of Cora saying she was not paid to see threats. She thought of Matteo calling her wardrobe like it was an insult. Then she lifted her chin. "My name is Mara Bell," she said, "and I know what people miss when they only look at the spotlight." No one laughed. No one looked away. The room that once called her invisible now held its breath to hear her speak.